Hi guys, welcome back. Today I thought that I would go over my top 2023 books of last year, so kind of my favorites for each month. So instead of the 24, we're just gonna go over the 12. So my top book of January was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I ended up giving this a 5 stars. I absolutely love it. If you've seen the movie, the book is completely different in a sense. In the movie, there's a guy who creates this entire virtual world, and this guy, main character Wade, pretty much lives in it. You have your real world and your virtual world. In your real world, you're kind of like in the slums, and of course people who have more money are living off a little bit better. And in the movie, you go through all of these games to try to find these different keys left by this kind of digital creator who died. And if you can find all these keys and the Easter egg, then you end up winning his entire fortune and his whole company. And in the movie, I know Wade plays all of these different games. They're much more action-packed in the movie than they are in the book. In the book, he actually ends up attending all of his schooling online, talking to his friends all online. He still lives kind of in that trailer of the stack that is also in the movie. Pretty much everything is digital for him. Now in the book, it's definitely more kind of riddle-based that he has to go through. And I think that's why they probably changed it in the movie, is to try to capture the audience a little bit more. But I personally liked this version a little bit better. I mean, I always love an action-packed movie, but just kind of seeing Wade's thinking around trying to figure out the different riddles was really intriguing and exciting, and you can kind of figure out the different logistics and puzzles and again the different riddles of this book. If you haven't read this, I definitely would. It's definitely kind of more a sci-fi fantasy sense, just because of that like gaming world and virtual reality. And read it, do it. February's top read was Crooked Kingdom for me. I read Six of Crows the year before and I finished it in February. I love this world so much. I love Lee Bardugo. This book is just filled with found family and different types of heists, and it's action-packed, and if that's something that you're interested in, then I would definitely recommend Crooked Kingdom. I rated this one also a 5 star. I think I preferred this one over the first one by far, just because of kind of wrapping up everything. There's definitely a scene in here that I know everybody gets a little emotional in, and I didn't, but you still are connected with all of the different characters in here. You definitely miss them. Like, I miss this world, and we'll probably end up rereading it eventually, but I would just highly recommend reading this one. My next read that was my favorite for March is one that nobody will be shocked by, and again, this series took everybody by a whirlwind, and I absolutely fell into the bandwagon, and I apologize now. My top book for March was A Court of Thorn and Roses, and that's all I can say. I never really thought that I would be a fantasy girly. The only other fantasy that I read before this was Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and I had a friend get this for me. I think I was always just scared of starting into the fantasy world, but starting with A Court of Thorn and Roses was just the best way to get into a romantasy and fantasy world. The world building was amazing. I love the different kind of relationships in all of the book, and it was just such a fun ride going through this entire series. Although I have this for March, I would still put the whole series up top. I know everybody can give different ratings for each of the books, but just because this book is what started me reading so much fantasy, this was absolutely a 5 star for me in every way possible. My top April book was, again, probably nothing surprising. This one was a romance, and it is The Bodyguard by Katherine Senner. This one is adorable. So you have Jack Stapleton, and he is this amazing actor, and he finds himself in a bit of a stalker situation. So they end up hiring Hannah, who's his bodyguard, and he has to end up moving home, and he doesn't want his family to know that he has a bodyguard. So there's definitely the fake dating tropes in here and that close proximity. They're just like, their banter is hilarious, and I absolutely love it. And if there's one thing that I realize with an author, is that if I absolutely hate a character with a burning passion, that just means that the author wrote a really good character that made me want to hate them, and I still despise one of the people in this book. So if you're looking for a quick, witty romance, then I would highly recommend The Bodyguard. My top book for May It's just gonna be, it's not surprising yet again. My top book for April was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. And again, just because I have the first book here, I thought it would be ridiculous to have just Sarah J. Maas for every single month, so I'm trying to space it out, but this entire series is 5 stars, 100%. This one, compared to A Court of Thorn and Roses, I think A Court of Thorn and Roses is definitely more of a spicier series. This one, not so much, in my opinion. I think this one is definitely more politics, action-packed, strategies, maybe heists, and because of that, I think I would recommend, well, no, I recommend all of them, but you definitely should start with A Court of Thorn and Roses and then read this series. For the order of the books, I actually didn't follow, I don't think, any of what anybody's recommending, and I ended up reading Assassin's Blade right after I read Throne of Glass. I know people recommend reading it after Heir of Fire because you already have kind of all the connections with the characters and you get to know, but I think I would either read Assassin's Blade first or again right after Throne of Glass, just because you get to find out more about some certain characters and kind of more of Selena's different history and her past. And later, when you need to kind of recall all of that different information for later on in the series, I didn't find that I was forgetting anything, and I was still able to remember all of the different short stories that were in it and the characters that were based in it that kind of come up again. So if you're wondering for the different order, I would just say choose your pick. I'm always the emotional reader following that path, so if you want to do that, go for it. If you want to start Assassin's Blade first, go for it. Pick whichever order that you dream of and enjoy this lovely roller coaster ride. For June, my top book might be a bit of a surprise, but again, I don't know. I'm just a big mood reader, and if I want to read something different, I'm gonna do it. So my top book for June was How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. If you're not into horror or thrillers, don't read this. It's definitely a little graphic, but I love that. If you saw from my book organization, I have a bunch of Stephen King and I'm just used to it. This one takes place in this family. Growing up, the mom loves puppets, and if that doesn't scare you right away, then give her a go. Give it a try. So the family ends up passing away. Our main character, Louise, has to come back. She has to try to set up the house, clean it up so that she can sell it. But her brother, Mark, is like, no, like, why would we sell it? And she's like, well, it's a really creepy house, and stuff happened in there that I don't ever want to remember. And so you're going through this journey with Louise and Mark. Things are happening in this house, and there's a whole puppet room that she's trying to, I think, clear out, from what I recall. And I won't forget the graphics of one scene. Like, I was like internally cringing and just like blanket up to my face the entire time I was reading that scene. If you're looking for a different horror and thriller, I would highly recommend How to Sell a Haunted House. My top book for July was When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This book has my whole heart. It's a 6-star book. If you want a quick romance that is closed-door romance, kicking and screaming, blushing along with the characters, then you have to read this book. It follows this main character, Amelia, who's a singer, and she's just trying to get away from the chaos of her lifestyle, and she ends up breaking down in front of Noah's house. And Noah, being this baker and kind of small-town, grumpy sunshine, 100%. He just wants her out of his space as soon as possible, but he's like, okay, well, of course the auto shop is closed down, so I guess you can come stay at my house while we wait for someone to like help you out. And so again, there's that forced proximity. You have grumpy sunshine and just kind of watching them get along and hate each other at the same time, and I can't get over it. If I can find another book that makes me feel this way and just like want to move to Rome, Kentucky, and make pancakes all day, then please give me any of the recommendations. Please read When in Rome. My top book for August was Happy Place by Emily Henry. I personally liked it since I'm also in that kind of age group of graduated from university, losing touch with friends, everybody's going their different paths, but you still want to stay connected. That's where I really connected with this book. I think Emily Henry did a really good job of going through the different relationships and friendships and just the entire journey of when you graduate school. Like, you still want to be in their lives, but you're busy with your own life, and maybe you don't technically live in the same city, but you still want to try to make the effort, but again, you're busy. So maybe there's like, in this book, they come together kind of that once a year to go to this beach house, and her friend's family is selling it, so this is kind of their last hurrah. And I just love every piece of this book, 100%. The relationship in it as well is also good. That wasn't convincing at all, was it? The relationship was good, and it was just so frustrating because, again, it was just like one conversation that they could have had. But I understand in also a sense, because sometimes there's those tough conversations that you don't want to go through. I myself also hate confrontation, so I can understand that it's something you don't want to bring up. You don't want to be a burden, and just things fall apart and it's not great. So I understand that. I just connected well with the friendship side of this book. And again, if you can't tell, pretty much 100% every book that I'm showing you, I've given 5 stars to. Just read it. Do it. For September, my top book was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I don't even know where to start with this one, to be completely honest. Ninth House follows this main character, Alex. She has kind of gone through a whirlwind her entire life. She's dropped out of school. She's gone through a lot of trauma. This one, absolutely, I would look up the trigger warnings for, just to be on the safe side. There is one scene that I remember Destiny kind of talking about in hers when she was reading it, about a bathroom scene. And I wasn't expecting what happens in here based off of her just saying a bathroom scene. So make sure you check the trigger warnings for that. But again, I've read a lot of effed up stuff, so this was a bit graphic, but maybe equally disturbing as Haunted House book. So what I love about the dark academia of this book is you get to find out all of the kind of sketchy stuff that kind of secret societies in Yale are going through, and Alex is recruited to kind of help with certain rituals, in a sense, that are happening. It's this entire journey with her that you're trying to go through. You're learning a lot about her. There's a relationship between her and this other character, Darlington. I'm not sure I would say that there's a lot of witty banter, but there's definitely, the relationship is definitely one for the books. And I think definitely found family, I would say, is in here. Just again with Alex kind of being that loner, she finally finds people that care about her, which is nice. And give me anything with secret, Yale, Harvard, any type of dark academia, secret societies, and I will 100% read it. Ninth House, 5 stars. I hopefully plan on getting to Hellbent sometime soon, hopefully within the next kind of month and a bit, but read this one too. For October, again, I did my best of not putting this entire video about Sarah J. Maas. So you get 3 books from me. So my top book for October was Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I ended up reading House of Sky and Breath. I think December I finished it. I honestly prefer Crescent City over House of Sky and Breath, just because this book, when you start out, I know it drags out a little bit, and you're just kind of like living in the life with Bryce, and you're just like, okay, like I get it, what about it? And then as soon as you finish part 1, you're just like, holy shit, what just happened? So read that. The relationship between Bryce and Hunt, enemies to lovers. She wants nothing to do with him. He really doesn't want to babysit, but you will be kicking and screaming reading this entire book, including if you read the second one, you will also be kicking and screaming between the 2 of them. And when January 30th, the other 3rd book comes out, you will 100% be kicking and screaming, as I will. Possibly I will call in a sick day just so I can wait at the door for that to arrive so I can read it. Because if you read the last page of that second book, my adrenaline is already up thinking about it. So let's move on. My top book for November, again, not a surprise because everybody else was raving about it, and for a good reason. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. If you want a book about politics, war, dragons, Dragon University, Dragon Riders, romantasy, a little bit of romance, witty banter, like again, enemies to lovers, read this book. As hyped up as it was for 100% a good reason. I don't think I was bored any single time of this. I remember looking through it and being like, ooh, that's some small font. Thinking it would take me so long to read. It did not. I cruised through this book, and don't let the size of it kind of defer you from trying to read it, because I promise you will fly through it. And if you are struggling, push through and it will get better. Now, if you don't like it, to each their own. I'm sorry if you don't like it when I recommended it, but do it. My top book of December was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I just can't get over how light and fluffy and exciting that this book made me. It's so whimsical and can I say happy? I don't know. This is exactly what I needed on winter break, just a literal entire getaway from reality. It's so good. Scarlett's the main character in this book, and her sister Donatella go away to participate in Caraval. It's this massive game that only happens once a year. What ends up happening is Donatella is pretty much essentially the prize, and what Scarlett needs to do is she needs to win the game. She needs to find Donatella in order to win. At the very end, legend will grant her a wish, and you get to go through this entire journey adventure with Scarlett. And I have no words. Maybe like secrets, bargains would be the trope for this one. Maybe a bit of enemies to lovers in a sense, but you don't know who to trust. This entire book I was questioning what's real, what's not real, because again, like, nothing's real in Caraval. You don't know. So anytime somebody said something, I was like, is that real? Are you telling the truth? Are you lying? And by the end of it, I wasn't confused, but by the end of it, I was just loving this entire book. Scarlett was a little bit whiny for me, the main character, and the second book is in another point of view of a character that I enjoyed much more. If you want fun, whimsical, adventurous, escaping to another reality, then I would highly recommend this book. Oh, all right. That may be my top 12 books of 2023, but there are so many out there that I love. If you have any other recommendations of books that you think could fall into the category of what you've seen today and what I recommend, what I like, if you have any recommendations that you think I would enjoy, I would love for you to comment and let me know below. Hopefully you get at least one recommendation, or even if you've read any of the top 12 books that I've listed, let me know what your thoughts and opinions are though. If you have anything negative to say about When in Rome, don't tell me. You can talk to me about any of the other books, but not When in Rome. I'll cry. I'll do it. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully I was able to convince you to read at least one of them if you haven't already read them already. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!
A pair of jeans, a shirt or two. We didn't pack as if we weren't going back. It doesn't matter if it's true. I've got a feeling love will give us what we like. The world is waiting up. The world is waiting half a step beyond our door. And if it's not enough, I wanna see the stuff the world has got in store. I wanna take it all in, I'm falling. The cityscape by night, wanna catch in my photos. Where you go, every corner twice as bright. They'll be my treasures forever. When I can't hold you tight, I'll see the Stockholm lights. The Stockholm lights, the Stockholm lights. Tomorrow feels a year away. Like the seconds, the beginning and the end. But if in time it's yesterday, your picture's gonna bring it home to me again. The world is waiting up. The world is waiting half a step beyond our door. And if it's not enough, I wanna see the stuff the world has got in store. I wanna take it all in, I'm falling. The cityscape by night, wanna catch in my photos. Where you go, every corner twice as bright. They'll be my treasures forever. When I can't hold you tight, I'll see the Stockholm lights. The Stockholm lights.